Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. This episode of Slam the Gavel is sponsored by CPS Protect Consulting Services. A child protective services case is one of the most frightening experiences for any parent. Don't face it alone. Face it with confidence with Urgent Assist by CPS Protect. You can have access to former CPS investigators to make sure you preserve your rights and protect your family. If you're facing CPS involvement and aren't sure where to turn, their child welfare consultants can help you. Visit cpsprotect.com/subscribe and enter the coupon code SLAMTHEGAVEL for 10% off your first year of Urgent Assist. And this is also available in all 50 states. I have another announcement. Bradley's mother, Narcus Golan, passed away in the fall of 2022. Bradley is autistic and needs structured routine therapies he receives for his autism 6 days a week. However, Italy just entrusted Bradley to the Italian social services. If he is ruled to go back, he will face the next 3 to 4 years in the Italian foster care system, where he can't speak or understand the language. He will then be taken away from the only family he has ever known. Please call Governor Hochul at 518-474-8390. That's Governor Hochul, 518-474-8390 to please keep Bradley here safe in these United States. Hashtag keep Bradley safe. Also, there's a site, pleasedoyourjob.com. Please go there and sign the petition. That's pleasedoyourjob.com and sign the petition. I have a brand new guest. I have Kelly Patton on this podcast. She's brand new, and she's a private detective, and she is filing a mass federal lawsuit in North Carolina. And we're going to talk about that. And I'm so glad to have you on, Kelly Patton. Okay, how are you doing this morning?
Hi, great. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh, I'm honored to have you on. I mean, you're filing this mass federal lawsuit by yourself with the
Yeah, all pro se, yes, with a group organization, Save Our Children Truth Commission.
Now, when did you start that?
Well, I originally started the process of serving the lawsuit in October of last year. But Save Our Children Truth Commission had originally drafted original lawsuits months before that. So this lawsuit that went out in October has, as of now, has not been dismissed. It's actually we're in a stay right now with the original. I believe it's 6 plaintiffs, and then around 35 have went over to appeals in Virginia now.
Okay, because I thought, well, how does that work? Because I think you had like what, 30 some parents involved in this?
Yeah, about 40 total. Yeah, originally 40. I'm not sure if I remember correctly, because I don't know the process actually myself. I'm kind of learning as I go with the other parents. The original 40 started out in the courts in North Carolina, and then we I don't know, we got split, and about 35 went to appeals in Virginia. And I remember that was about the time that we started doing intervening more plaintiffs. So they put a stop to us, the ability to intervene, and all the other plaintiffs that we had tried to intervene with had all went to appeals. But the original lawsuit that we had originally started is actually at a stay. Judge Flanagan put us in a stay. I think it was around September or October timeframe. So we're just kind of at a standstill right now. However, St. Francis Ministries did file. That was the most recent motion that was filed. They're requesting that the court places sanctions on me and the other plaintiffs that I had kind of been following their cases through the child courts
Mm-hmm.
and documenting their cases, and they want to put sanctions on me and these other plaintiffs, claiming that they can't have their cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting that they did that.
Yeah, considering I guess I don't like the idea of an investigator investigating the investigators.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I had been following these cases since, some of them since like 2018 and 2019. So these cases for me are not new at all.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the case of missing baby Vincent,
Mm-hmm.
I had originally started assisting the family in locating baby Vincent back in 2015. He actually went missing in July, this month, in 2015. It was a little suspicious to me because he's only 4 months old. So my mindset was, how do you locate a 4-month-old? I guess you go in and out of the court system to find a 4-month-old. They can't walk, they can't talk. So where does a 4-month-old go?
Uh, child trafficking.
Well, I followed it through the entire courts. Everything is documented. The entire process and all the court proceedings are documented. The Moore family, the family of the father, did try to get kinship care for baby Vincent, but was denied in the courts. I was actually at that hearing, and they claimed that he went missing in July, and they claimed that by October, the police department had declared him deceased, as he couldn't, he wouldn't be surviving on his own that long. So they declared him deceased with no body. And then I continued to follow it through the courts. And in April of 2016, St. Francis Ministries of Sedgwick County, Kansas, and the Wichita Police Department ordered child support. And I put the Wichita Police Department in that because the social worker that I confronted about the child support on a deceased child, Martha Horn, told me that she put it on the Wichita Police Department, and she told me to my face that the Wichita Police Department actually told her to proceed with child support. So I'm not sure the liability or who's responsible here, but definitely the great grandmother has passed away since this, and she asked me prior to her passing away that I not let anyone forget her baby Vincent. And so I continue to run his Facebook page, Help Us Find Baby Vincent, on Facebook.
Oh, how sad. So they're declaring this infant deceased, but yet they want the father to pay child support.
That's correct. That's correct.
Oh, only in America.
Right. And then when I filed this case to the the new Kansas Child Advocacy Program, I have the emails that I kept for the federal lawsuit, the conversations between myself and the new Office of Child Advocacy. They claimed that Vincent did not have an active child in need of care case during the time he went missing, and that's contrary to the court documents, and the actual case number was valid during the time he went missing. So he actually went missing under the watch of St. Francis Ministries and DCF in Kansas, in the state of Kansas.
So, what is the father doing now with this? He's working with you?
Yeah, I still keep in touch with him. I really encouraged him more to go on with his life. They really sabotaged him between the media and the police department. They really tried to Well, they really tried to ruin his life, but
Mhm.
I'm really proud of him. He's bounced back and he's getting an education and trying to move on with his life. But yes, we do work together. And you know, as I don't get updates anymore. We haven't got a tip on baby Vincent's page in quite a while. But as I was getting the tips and turning them over to the police department, there was no one acting on those tips. In fact, I was calling in tips anonymously myself all over Wichita at payphones. And as I would call in the tip, they'd come in and take out the payphones. So,
Oh. So is his father, are they garnishing his wages? Are they really forcing the child support?
no, not at this time. I'm not sure. It just kind of dropped. I don't know if it's because they realized someone was paying attention, and they had taken baby Vincent's page down twice on Facebook, but the family and I just put the page back up and just proceeded forward. We did lose some of our documentation on the page that way, but you know, we had kept all that stuff ourselves, so we just would go proceed on. After we would get the page would go down, we would just start a new page and move forward like that.
Yeah. Who gives them the right to take your page down? I've heard of other things like this happening.
Right. Actually, he does have a national missing persons number now. The family did make enough waves and insisted that he get a federal national missing persons number. So he does have a federal national missing persons number. So yeah, he's this case, I actually took this case. I was instructed to take this case to the FBI out of the state of Kansas. And there's been no work on it to my knowledge, although they did tell me they probably wouldn't be able to tell me what they were doing on the case. But as of now, the family's heard absolutely nothing. We just continue to run the page. And Vincent's 8 now. He turned 8 in March the 3rd. So that's how I kind of got started in this. I couldn't believe going in and out of the courts what I was seeing. I was just, and the way the family was being treated, and it was just, it was, I woke up, and I've never had a child in need of care case. I've never gone through the court process. I've never been through this whole thing. So it was all just, you know, unbelievable to me. I told my husband, I said, I don't know what to do at this point, but I feel like documenting these cases and getting involved with these parents will help them in the future with lawsuits. And so that's where I started, with documenting these cases. Now I'm doing cases all over the country now.
Mm-hmm. And you've got parents calling you left and right as well.
Yes, and thank you for that. By the way, I appreciate you, and I'm sure they appreciate you very much. But yes, I'm trying to kind of collectively gather these people and get them in an intake so that I can at least get them on the lawsuit when the lawsuit starts moving again, and we can start them as an intervention on the lawsuit that we have going. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That has to be done. I'm so glad you're doing this, because this is a insurmountable amount of work. This is difficult to file paperwork.
Yeah, you know, basically, you know, we're not lawyers. I'm not an attorney, although they're claiming that I'm an attorney, but I'm not an attorney. I'm just a fact gatherer. I just gather facts. One man said, he gave me the title due process auditor, and I'm like, oh, I love that so much. So due process auditor, I love that so much. So I'm like, I'm going with that, because I believe that title actually really actually is the best analogy, or the best example of what I'm actually doing. It's, you know, due process auditor. And I was like, wow, I really like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is Now, who gave you that title?
It was a gentleman out of Florida. It was a
Uh,
gentleman out of Florida. He's not on the lawsuit,
oh,
but he did contact me, and we kind of discussed some scenarios and some situations, and how it might apply to this lawsuit. So he was very helpful. So yeah.
that's really, I mean, it's so hard because now you're at a stay and you're just punting right now.
Yeah. Actually, I believe the appeals, the people in appeals actually requested a motion just recently to primarily not in monetary recovery, but primarily ask that their children be returned.
Mhm.
That's the primary. These people want their children back. They were wrongfully taken, illegally taken, and they want their children back. So basically, that's where the appeals process is now, because they're still allowed to file motions, where the primary lawsuit in North Carolina, we're not allowed to file motions at this time. Neither the actually in reality, this was put on a stay because they were allowing the defendants time to file a dismissal.
Typical. Yeah.
Right. So they were being allowed to file a dismissal way past time that they would be in default. All these defendants are in default. Most of them did not respond timely.
Mhm.
So they are actually in default, but yet they were given time to file a dismissal.
Ah, well, we'll see about that.
Yeah. We just got to pray about it. God's in the middle of all this, and you know, God will see this through
Mhm.
for sure. And we've gotten this far, and I just pray that these families just hold on a little bit longer, and they've been through so much. I do this for I actually help them through their cases at no charge.
Mhm.
And I always say they're broke and they're broken.
Mhm.
So my families are great. Everyone's so helpful and so eager to work with me to work through their cases and get everything documented and keep their documents and get timelines going and stuff. So everyone's been really cooperative. Yeah. Mhm.
Have they said that your statutes of limitation are up? Did they try pulling that on you?
No, actually, the plaintiffs have been very timely on their motions. They're actually filing this lawsuit under the fraud upon the court, and there's no statute of limitations for fraud upon the court.
Mhm.
So that's what the primary allegation, with the primary allegations that we're making on the lawsuit is under fraud upon the court.
Yeah. And now also, Judge Janice Graham Jack of Texas, she reached out to you regarding this lawsuit as well?
Yes, in Texas. I believe that there's some stuff in the works primarily that will focus on the state of Texas. I
Mhm.
think that there's going to be some special work going on over there for that state.
Mhm.
I do have one particular case in Texas. Actually, I have several cases in Texas, but I have one primary case in Texas that's a little bit special to me. I did get authorization from these families to talk about their cases. So the case in Texas, a 3-year-old was murdered in foster care in custody of the state of Texas. The mother was very, very vigilant at documenting and keeping paperwork. We worked together to put together a timeline of photos.
Mhm.
of the decline of the baby's health. And she was being told at the visits that she wasn't allowed to take pictures of the little girl, but the sisters took mommy's phone and took pictures of their sister. So we actually have a progression picture of the decline of her health. And she was found deceased. She went to the emergency room and she was declared deceased in the emergency room in foster care custody. And I worked with a detective in Killeen, great guy, Detective Smith, great guy. We worked together to put together the case for the district attorney, and he did not file charges. He said he found no culpability and no charges were filed for her death.
This is where all of this is, well, even prior to that, they're removing children with no reason other than they could be a very good looking child, blonde, blue eyes. They're just taking kids, randomly, and then they torture them in foster care, and kids are dying, and then the DAs don't do their job.
Right. And we actually got, when we looked at the autopsy was declared undetermined. I did try to get the autopsy changed based on her medical records and the photographs and all that. And the detective also did go to the death review board and try to get her autopsy determination changed as well. But that was to no avail. We couldn't get that done. We were still hoping that we could get charges filed based on what the information that we had. It makes me wonder if this has been a death that had occurred in the custody of the biological mother, would the outcome have been so different? Would charges be so different if it would have been in the mother's custody that this child would have died instead of foster care? It makes me wonder. I mean, how many times do charges come for biological parents for murdering their child, but now here we got a foster child in the custody of the state of Texas, but no charges will be filed?
Well, they have to protect their moneymaker. I think that's
point blank period. There's I was very disappointed. I cried. I was so upset that this didn't come out the outcome that I had wanted. However, the mother was so much more optimistic. It made me feel so much better because I did a lot of hard work. I worked on it for at least a year. I went through two detectives. The first detective that was on the scene, the incident report was absolutely terrible, and what wasn't redacted for me was had a lot of errors in it. So I told the third detective that was on it, that was working with me, I said, mad respect to you, sir, because I see what you have to work with, and it's not a lot. So, not being at the scene himself or myself, we had to, basically put this whole case together with very, very little information from the actual incident itself. And then, the autopsy being undetermined. I can't recall, but I'm thinking her autopsy was about 10 or 11 pages long, and a normal autopsy is about 3. So that will tell you about how numerous her injuries were that she sustained prior to her death.
So was she in a foster care group home or with a foster parent?
She was with a foster parent, and the foster parent, it was coincidentally, it was during COVID. So the little girl, the foster mom kept having the little girl go to doctor, 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 doctor. And I believe, from what I could see, and the detective agreed with me, they were trying to put this little girl on disability. They were trying to find a condition that she may have had to put her on disability. Then it got to where COVID came, and now the girl wasn't being seen by a physician. Only the foster mom was on Zoom calls with the doctors. So this little girl hadn't been looked at by a physician in months. So the injuries that she sustained, bruises from head to toe, and possible sexual assault, was never visually seen by a physician because of COVID. So this girl suffered. She suffered a lot. She was covered in bruises. Like I said, her autopsy was pages and pages long of documented bruises and cuts and abrasions all over her body. Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible.
What a shame. You know how human beings treat each other. This is just absolutely horrible. You know, why did they come in and take this baby away from the mother?
Originally, the mother had been living in California, and the biological father was making false calls. So she relocated. And when she relocated, he started making the calls again. And then all the children were taken. There were 3. She had 2 sisters that were also taken. All 3 of them were placed in the same foster home. And what we understand now, the foster mom had intentions of adopting at least 2 of them. That's what we had come to determine based on the notes. Although the mother has yet to receive her DCF documents. I literally have not one client that has ever gotten their DCF records, except I got one out of another state. But to my recollection, everyone that I've sent to go request their DCF documents, no one has received their DCF documents. And this case in Texas, she's never received the documents.
And where are the other 2 siblings? Did they take them out of that foster home and move them somewhere else?
Immediately. No. They went back to mother.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so that shows you
So
something was wrong.
maybe it wasn't so bad after all. Yeah. So they went back to mom. Yeah. And they're all doing very well. I'm so happy for them. They're doing very well. And like I said, the mother, when the charges were denied, the mother took it in stride. I was so much more emotional, but she kept saying, "It's okay, Kelly. There's no statute for murder. There's no statute of limitations for murder." And I'm like, yeah. So it made me feel good that I believe that me working on this and getting this together for the mom, maybe some closure a little bit, maybe but yeah, it wasn't the outcome we expected or wanted, but it did turn out good as far as them mentally as a family. So yeah, that was a good outcome.
But are they on the lawsuit as well?
We're waiting to do intervention.
Okay.
Like I said, a lot of these cases that I do, we're waiting to do intervention. Some of the cases that you had sent me, we can't do anything until we're allowed to do an intervention on this on the primary lawsuit in North first. And so we're, like I said, we're at the stay, so we're not allowed to add any more plaintiffs at this time. But I'm still doing intakes and things like that.
I'm sure people are coming to you in droves.
They are. But I'm a really good documenter. I'm
Yeah.
really good with paperwork, and I'm a really good organizer. So I got this, I got this covered, I got this handled. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Is Judge Janice Graham Jack aware of this 3-year-old being murdered?
Actually, I believe, if I recall, it's been a while, but when I originally got the case, let's see, I got the case in December, not last December of 22, but I got the case in 21 of December. I did contact her office, and I did get to speak with one of her aides, legal aides, and yes, they had documented my phone call, and but nothing came out of that, but I did get to speak with one of her aides in regards to this. Yeah, yeah.
Just I've heard horror stories come out of Texas. Like
Me too.
that would be the
Me
last
too.
place I would move.
Me too. I'm hearing some crazy stuff in Texas. Absolutely. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I would never move
Yeah.
my family there.
Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah. I've got another case in Texas right now. They came in and took a child from a mother, claiming that the father may have potentially the mother may have potentially murdered the father, but the father did commit suicide. And they came in and took the little girl, and the little girl was out of the mother's custody for about 7 or 8 months, but she did get her child back. But we're still fighting that murder suicide situation, so that's still up in the air.
And also, she may have gotten her child back, but condition is this child in psychologically?
Yeah. Actually, I believe the whole time she was in foster care, she'd never I believe her when she got her back, I think the mother had told me that she had six cavities
Oh,
within just those few short months. So she hadn't got the proper dental and medical
um,
care that, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then parents are held to such a high standard, and literally their children are kept from them because the social workers believe that they potentially may not get the medical or dental care that they need, but yet this is allowed to happen while they're in foster care in the custody of the state of the state. So they're allowed to let these kinds of things slide, but yet a parent is held at a different standard.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, there's parents that are, good fit parents. Of course, you have the parents that are not, but it appears that they are just removing kids from the good fit parents.
Yeah, I'm finding also, I interestingly, I was up really late last night. Once I start down a rabbit hole,
Mhm.
I I can't let it go. I have another case in Texas where I actually talked to the social worker, Angelica Ponce in Texas, and she tells me that I looked at the original paperwork, the court documents, and they were terrible. This was a newborn baby, a male newborn, 3 days old, just out of the hospital, and they took this baby under the allegations of sex trafficking. Um, the child was in the home of methamphetamine processing and use, all these allegations, and the child had never even been home. The child had never left the hospital,
Mhm.
but these allegations were put on this child, and they had him listed as a female. The paperwork, yeah, the paperwork was, I read it, it was terrible. There were so many errors. And so when I contacted the social worker, Angelica Ponce, I didn't get it recorded. I wish I would have, but when I confronted her about it, she says to me, "Oh, we just copy and paste. So that's how the errors happen." So last night I just happened to be reviewing some um caseworkers, their behavioral sciences regulatory board. They have been reviewed for making mistakes, and I actually came upon one which is so strange. I just actually opened it up, and this one particular licensee said she has allegations. It says, according to the former employee, the licensee was terminated for falsifying documents by cutting and pasting notes from previous years without actually seeing the clients or opening templates on cases, so that it would appear work had been done on a file, and for excessive unexcused absences. And the licensee's response to this was, the licensee advised that cutting and pasting was a practice employed by all social workers at her previous employment. So here it is right here, by another social worker. You know, I do background checks. Many of these social workers are not licensed, minimal education. I mean, you probably know all this. You've probably heard all this. I'm finding more and more that don't go by their given legal names. In fact, I found another one last night here in Kansas. She goes by Sarah Haas, but yet when I did a child abuse review with her and a client of mine, she went by Sarah Reimer. So now, you know, we've got, but that's not on her license. So I have the ability to dig into this. And so they're not going by their legal names. I find that particularly disturbing, considering, you know, I have to change my name and my address within 10 days. And when I worked in radiology, you know, I had to have a federal license, and I also had to have a state license. So I had to have my name changed within, you know, like a month. And so this particular one here that I was looking at, she actually was unlicensed from the year of 2006 to 2009, this particular social worker with the cut and paste. So she did not have a license for over 3 years, and there was no accountability. As a matter of fact, the review board reinstated her license in 2010 September, and it says, this letter is to confirm that you complied with all the conditions set forth in the consent agreement. You completed the conditions. Your case is closed. You are now unconditionally licensed to practice as a LMSW. 3 years without a license, and the review board gave her unconditionally her license back, when she clearly said that she cut and pasted from her employment.
You know, why didn't they just fire her and she could go work at Burger King?
Or a donation sorter at Goodwill, so she has no contact with anyone. I like that one.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of these, okay, but she didn't have a college degree in social work, though, did she?
This one was a licensed master's social work, but I'm finding that, and this one, but see, if they don't have a license in social work, they're not going to have a behavioral science. They're not going to be regulated by the board. They're not a licensed social worker. So they're running rogue. They have no accountability. Who are they accountable to? If they don't have a licensed social worker, and this one right here was 3 years with no social work license, and they reinstated it. I mean, where's the accountability in that? When you got a licensed social worker for 3 years who hadn't updated her license. Some of them, like I said, they get married or remarried or whatever they're doing, I don't know, but they're not changing their names. Their names are listed as something else. Sometimes when I do background checks, I can't even find the people. Like they don't even exist under those names. So these people are coming in and taking children under a false name. They come in and take someone's child out of their home with false allegations with a different name, and we have no accountability for this. This is where I find my work so rewarding, is that I'm able to, once again, due process auditor, I'm able to follow this, and document all this, although it's not being heard at any level, but
Yes.
the document, yes, yes, yet.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm praying that it's coming. Yeah.
I think it will be coming, this has got to stop.
Yes, it absolutely has got to stop. It's got to be, somebody's got to, take accountability here. So yeah, these families, just go through so much, and then the attorneys capitalize on this. I've got one guy, I believe he was on your show. I think he's had 6 or 7 attorneys. He's paid out of his own pocket for 6 or 7 attorneys, and his son is still with the biological mother. And yeah, and I believe I believe this child is also in a potentially dangerous situation, according to the father. So yeah, and he keeps saying, but none of the attorneys will, go in and fight for him, but they'll gladly take his money.
Yeah, they're pretty much useless.
Yeah, it's terrible. They go in, I go into courts and I sit there. Like I said, I don't talk. All I do is document and write down, who does what, and who's the players, who are the players, and who is doing what. And I'm just, the guardian ad litems, they don't see the children. They don't, they're supposed to be following up with the children and the parents and following up and fight. No, none. They don't even speak in court. They don't stand. They don't address the judge. Nothing. They just literally just sit there. And I wish I could say, oh, I've seen 1 or 2 cases and this is the way it seemed in this 1 or 2 cases, but I'm hearing, look at this. These are cases. Same thing, same story, over. They love it when they talk to me there, because I'm like, I believe you. That's what they need to hear, is that what is happening to them, someone's believing them. I believe them. This is too much. This is too much to ignore. This is too much to discount. This is too much to, tell the parents, and make excuses for it. This too much. It's too much. It's just too much.
Right. The caseworker in my case, I had called the governor because he was new, and my brother-in-law suggested, why don't you call the governor and let him know what's going on? Because, he's new. So, I wrote to him. I told him what happened with this caseworker, and their office actually contacted the corporation and said, under no circumstances does any parent get called mentally ill unless that caseworker has a PhD in psychology. So when I talked to the head of the caseworkers of this corporation, he said, your caseworker was taken out of the field because she's not fit to be around people. So I said, oh, okay, so you promoted her. He said, well, I wouldn't exactly call that a promotion. She has a desk job.
Well, I looked up a couple of your, they don't have license. They don't have active licenses. Did you know that? Were you aware?
I was aware because before I started my lawsuit, I was aware that they were not they're just caseworkers.
No, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. They don't have, that's one, again, there's no regulations, there's no
Nope.
accountability. And when they investigate themselves and always find no wrongdoing. I
Right.
can't even tell you how many times I've got cases and cases and cases that I've helped these people file legitimate legal complaints, and nothing, not one person has been held accountable. So that's why I'm telling you, it's something has got to change. It's just too much. There's too much.
Well, I know since that movie Freedom came out, I didn't get to see the movie yet. My husband's working night shift, so but the thing is, I don't know if that film was focused on, say, the United States, of what foster care is doing with the child trafficking. What happened to these 85,000 children that's disappeared, the migrant children that disappeared?
What
Uh,
happened to baby Vincent?
yeah,
What happened to Vincent? I mean, no accountability. I've even been
yeah.
to the child advocacy division in Kansas. No answers, dead silence. Once they found out he had a child in need of care case and he did go missing under the state's watch, nothing, crickets, no accountability, nothing. Not a sorry for the parents, nothing, nothing. And I did see the movie, and it focuses on international,
Yeah,
but that's okay. It's a
yeah,
start.
yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are ready yet to accept what's happening here. Like I said, me, myself, I never went through it, but I just happened to watch this case in 2015 and it woke me up.
Mhm,
And like I said, it didn't impact me personally.
mhm.
I could have just minded my own business, but I'm nosy. So my husband says, well, if you're going to be nosy, you might as well get a private investigator license and go from there. And I'm also a certified parent ally through the state of Kansas Supreme Court. So now I'm legally allowed to go in and sit in court cases with the parent if they deem me their parent ally, and I can help them document their cases. So that turned out to be a good thing. Raymond Seipolt is the one that got me signed up for that. So I wasn't even aware of it. He said that it was a new thing when his case was going on. So he got me signed up. So I'm now a parent ally. So I'm allowed to go into the courts and at least document. I don't know what Supreme Court justice in Kansas implemented this, but I love it. It's an outstanding start to be able to get some more eyes in the courtrooms and document what's going on in there.
Mhm, mhm,
Hopefully, correctly, and it's getting documented properly, and no more of this confidentiality stuff
mhm.
that they hide behind.
Right, and also with people filing false allegations, like you mentioned, the woman who moved away from her ex and he kept calling things in. It's like he's spiting the ex, but he doesn't care what happens to the kid, did he?
No, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I find it so ironic that the mother would immediately get custody back of the other two children after the death of her youngest one. That's how could you rightfully say that the allegations were substantiated when you turn around and give the other two children back immediately after one is murdered in foster care? It's just unbelievable. Yeah.
And there was no monetary settlement with that either, I'm assuming.
No one will take the case. No one will take the case. In fact, I believe if I remember correctly, the mother did tell me that the attorney for DCF did tell her that she did have absolutely had a solid case
Mhm.
for a wrongful death and some other stuff, but no one's stepping up for that. No. Mm-mm.
That is,
I
that's
had hoped that if charges would come, I hope that if the charges would have come, that it would have got some attention and an attorney would have taken it, but we didn't get the charges like we had expected we might. But in due time, as you say, is in
right.
due time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the mom's still hopeful.
Well, God bless her for that. I don't know what condition I would be in.
I know, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah. And these are great people. I mean, I stay on some of these cases. Like I've been on a case, a pedophile case here in Wichita since what, 2019. I've been on this case, and I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop.
Mhm.
So the mom and the grandmother were put on the child abuse registry here in Kansas for encouraging their daughter to report the adopted father for molesting her. And they turned around and took the custody away from the mother and gave the custody to the adopted father. Just straight out like that. Just like that. That's just exactly how it happened.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
I was also told when I was going through this fiasco, one of the nurses I worked with said, whatever that caseworker says on the witness stand, the judge is going to go with her decision. She says,
Yeah.
go in there with all your family members, take a boatload of people. Well, I couldn't because all my friends were working and I keep my circle small and I just had my parents there. So when she perjured herself all over the place and she called me a perpetrator at least 30 times in the transcript. The perpetrator did this and the perpetrator did that. It's like, this is all guilty before you're innocent, right? And I was exonerated from these emotional abuse charges months later. But when the judge awarded custody immediately that day to the ex-husband, the abuser, who was emotionally abusing the kids, his side was whooping, laughing, cheering, clapping. There was no slamming of the gavel. So, I'm just thinking there's more to this than meets the eye. And parents need to know that there's always another accusation coming down the pike. Because once
Right.
I was exonerated from the first one, then 4 days later, there was another false accusation of emotional child abuse, which I beat as well. But this is
Wow.
how they destroy lives. These caseworkers are destroying lives. They're so ignorant. They don't have the education. They don't even have training in child psychological abuse.
Yeah, I actually got to testify in one of the cases. One of the cases that I have on the lawsuit of a mother, she had 7 children, and she had false hair follicle tests. And I'm hoping I want this to go all the way to the Supreme Court. We've got to stop these hair follicle tests. So she had a hair follicle test that she was positive for methamphetamines, but see, she was pregnant, so they were doing urinalysis tests independent at the doctor's office. Well, none of those were positive for methamphetamines. As a matter of fact, she has a chronic medical condition that she was taking opioids for, and not one hair follicle test is positive for opioids. That should have been yes. Yes. And I submitted that evidence straight out of the gate on the federal lawsuit. I'm like, we have got to, I told the mama, you got to put this stuff straight away, because we've got to get this exposure out. So I got to testify in her hearing, and the judge says to me, are you a chemist? I said, no, sir. Are you a biologist? I said, no, sir. He goes, so you are not qualified to read these as an expert witness, to read these hair follicle tests. But the social workers are?
You have more intelligence than these caseworkers.
I used to do, I was a DOT I did urinalysis and I did hair follicle test. I was DOT certified. So I'm like, who do you think calls you from the doctor's office with your test results, sir, it would have been me. I would have been the one calling you with your test results. But you're trying to say I'm not qualified on the stand next to a social worker that has zero
Oh,
experience. Yeah.
that's
Yes.
disgusting. Did you
Yes.
say that to him?
Yes. Yes.
What
Yes.
was,
I'm like,
what did he say?
yeah, nothing. I immediately had to be removed from the stand.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, and then she's in appeals right now, and the appellate attorney said that we can't bring up the hair follicle test being fake because it was never addressed in the trial. I'm like, yes, it was addressed in the trial. I testified. She goes, well, the hair follicle actual lab work was never submitted. I'm like, that's because we gave it to the attorney and the attorney didn't submit it. And she goes, well, I feel like the appellate attorney said that she felt like that if we went for ineffective counsel, we would be less likely to get the appeal to go through than if we did anything else. So she wouldn't do ineffective counsel, which is exactly what happened. The attorney didn't turn in the lab work like we had requested be done. So now this can't be addressed in appeals because that lab work didn't go in.
Oh.
And we had it all right here. We have it right here.
I would put it in anyway.
Well, it's in the federal lawsuit. I told the mom, I said, you got to put this in straight away. If we keep playing this game the way they want to play the games, it's going to stay the same. So let's do something a little bit more bold. I'm not a lawyer, but if what in the past wasn't working, then we need to change the way we do it. And the way we do it is we just start bombarding with evidence. And so Raymond and I, decided in the beginning to straight away, come out with this evidence. And so it was all the evidence that I had been collecting for them during their cases. So, yeah, that's how I'm involved in it. Yeah.
You're amazing.
I'm
Wow.
tired. I'm
Yeah.
tired, that I know.
Oh, but I mean, thank God that these parents have you to be their champion, because like you said, you can't get an attorney to represent you. I couldn't get one to represent me. Well, I don't know what these attorneys do. Do they even work? What do they do?
I don't know, but I've actually been on conference calls and heard their conversations with the clients, and they're like, I don't even think they've read paperwork. They literally have no idea what they're representing or what the case is even about. I can hear it in the conversation. So no, these are deals that are made in the hallway and in the back. Court is just a formality to put something on a record, to have it typed up. The decisions are already made. Kansas is notorious for holding court in the hallway, in the public, in front of everyone. I'm sitting there listening to other people's cases, but they're confidential because we're worried about the children.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. They're confidential because we're worried about the children, but yet we're deciding cases and talking about what the parents did and didn't do, or how they're complying or not complying, in the hallway for everyone to hear. But this is confidential because we're confidentiality for the children.
Oh my God.
Absolutely no thought about the well-being of these children. No one's considering this. Absolutely not.
It breaks my heart when I hear these stories that, they show up at the door at 11 o'clock at night and they tell the kid to put, stuff in a trash bag and they're leaving with them.
And it's amazing because when the family gets the children taken away, when the children are supposedly coming back, they're reintegrated, but for their best interest. But when they abruptly take them and put them in a foster home, what happened to the abrupt, that's never considered. when they're abruptly removed and abruptly put with a foster family they don't know, but yet you can't abruptly take them from the foster home and put them back with their parents because they need to be reintegrated with their own family. It's something has to change.
Definitely.
Something has to change.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I had you on, and I want to have you back on again in the future too. Follow your
Right.
case.
Yes, I would love it. I would love it.
How can people reach you? Because they are. You're going to have a lot of people reaching out to you now.
Well, mostly, you and I had already discussed this before. I don't advertise. I don't, I just stay real low key. In fact, I hadn't even shown my face since 2015. I actually went on 2 podcasts and showed my face recently. So no one even really knew who I was or what I looked like or what I did. You can never tell by looking at my social media. I'd kept it real quiet, but it's time to start speaking out.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to bring this to the forefront. It's time, you've got the sound of freedom. Well, we'd like to hear the sound of freedom here in our United States. We'd like to hear the sound of freedom. All these families would love to hear the laughter of their children back at their home. And, so it's time. It's absolutely time. As far as reaching out to me, I usually go through other parents. I don't normally, like I said, I don't advertise. I only work for donations, and I would never turn anybody down if they couldn't contribute anyway. All I ask is that once you get settled and get hopefully get your case resolved, that you step up and do the same thing for someone else. I think we all need to be helping each other.
Right. It doesn't end. If anyone wants to contact you, they can come through me at dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, and I'll put that in the podcast notes.
That'd be great. I would love that. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, hey, no problem. Don't jump off though. Okay.
All right.
Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here in the future with Kelly Patton and other exciting guests. And also you can find this podcast on Apple and Anchor FM, Spotify, iHeartRadio. So I'm all over the place, and please leave reviews. So thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Let's make some changes.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.